morning, Cheri. How are you this morning?
I am fantastic, Kara. How are you?
I am doing great. I actually am doing great. You know what? No complaints. No complaints whatsoever. Even though once again, it is gray outside. I don't know what's up with the month of April. Oh, wait a minute. April showers bring May flowers, right?
That's right. That's right.
So,
Speaking of that, had we have had this burst of budding around. Like the grass is so green and the trees, they're just they're just ready to just explode and it's so exciting to watch.
you know what? You're right. I just noticed that. It was like one day my trees were still like brown sticks. And then it was like the next morning, I'm like,
Yes.
whoa, wait a minute. Like, where did you come from? Like, it just kind of, it seemed like bloomed overnight.
Exactly. And this year, I don't know what it is, but I feel I must be noticing colors more and I must just be happier in general because I am noticing we have this one tree and the buds are all like a maroon color, but yet the leaves are green. So how that works, I don't really know, but I don't think I've ever noticed that before. And it's so pretty. I mean, it's just one more way that God just gives us that extra creativity and beauty that he really doesn't have to, but yet he loves us so much that he does.
And you know what? I just think it's the perfect introduction to our topic today, which is we're talking about summer, you know, and everything. And so it is, summer is just one of those, I don't know, seasons that families just love, right? Because summer, you think of summer. Well, at least
Absolutely.
when I was a child, summer always represented no school. Okay, so as kids,
Yay.
yay, it was like, well, I'm trying to think, did they call it summer break back then? I think it was called, no, I think they just said school's out, you know, um, back then or what. And I think that's just what they called it. I don't remember it having like a formal name or whatnot, but we just say it's the last day of school and we didn't see each other till September. Um, and I think school back then ended for me in early June. So, had a good 3 months there to where you just had time to have fun, and play. Was that the same with you growing up in Michigan?
Well, actually, I didn't grow up in Michigan. I've always considered myself more of like a gypsy. My dad, he was a pastor, and so we moved around a lot. So my first 10 years were in Pittsburgh, and we got out of school mid to late June and started after Labor Day. Then we moved to New Jersey, same type of a schedule there. Then we moved to Illinois. There was different. There was probably more like you. We got out right around my birthday, which was June 1st.
Mhm.
And then Michigan is this, well, it's weird because we have two kids in two different school districts. One school district starts the end of August and gets out the first part of June. The other school district starts after Labor Day and gets out mid June. So we have just a conglomeration of schedules around our house.
Yeah, and that's
Oh,
right.
and then we have another kid who's in college and he gets out at the end of April. So we have we have it all.
I know, right? Because it's just amazing how, yeah, you're right, because you have the different age levels
Yep.
and different
Yep.
and different
And that
school.
plays a part in it too.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that
Yep,
plays a part in
exactly.
it. Because you may have like you say, college maybe one time or one particular couple of months or weeks, and then high school another, and then elementary completely totally different. So yeah, it could be crazy, but I always remember just so looking forward to summer. And
Oh, me too.
it was just in June generally signified, like I said, June generally, early June kind of, I think, signified when summer was about to happen. And I don't know, it was just something about not going to school, and just being able to have fun. But I think the most part for me was that um I grew up in a city, and but my grandparents lived out in the country. And it was a nice little drive, long drive out to the country. And I think one of my favorite things always to do during the summer that I think I look forward to the most back then was my mom would kind of I tease her by saying she shipped us out out to the country, like with my grandparents. And we would spend anything from like days to weeks. I mean, we would just spend a lot of time out there during the summer. And it was just such a blast and such fun. And I have such great memories of that to this day, all these years later. And that was just always something. And then my grandparents would pull up, because my mom and my grandmother, my great grandmother at the time, would help us pack and, be all excited. And then when grandma and my grandfather would pull up, and it was just so exciting because we knew we were going to go on a trip, you know, and not necessarily a trip, it wasn't out of state, but it was a long way away from our home. And it was just a completely different scenery and so much to do and just a completely different lifestyle. I mean, where I grew up, it was not common to have chickens in your front yard or hogs, not too far, behind you. And, roads that were endless for miles and miles and miles with no stop signs, stop lights, or anything like that. And it was just like a completely different world. Do you have any memories from your childhood that stick out to you the most, Cheri?
See, when I sit here listening to you share that, my mom shares with me that she had the same type of experience. She lived in more of a city type setting, and her mom would quote unquote ship her off in the summer.
Yes.
And she has some of the fondest memories of coming here to Michigan. Actually, I think my mom grew up in New York, and I think that my great grandparents, her grandparents, well, I know they lived in Stony Lake, Michigan. And she had so much fun as a child with so many great memories. She then would take us. So we wouldn't spend the whole summer there, but we would spend 1 to 2 weeks. We would go as a family and we would spend 1 to 2 weeks. And while we lived in like a suburb, it was still pretty city-ish, I guess. Well, being the gypsy that I talked about a few minutes ago, we've lived in the country, we've lived in suburbs, we've lived in more city-ish settings. So I've lived in lots of different cultures. But yeah, they lived right on a lake, and so their house was way up on the hill, and you had to as a kid, it looked like 100 stairs, but I have no idea exactly how many they were. But we would spend our days out on the boat. We would spend our days. He always had a litter of puppies, my great grandfather. So we always were playing with puppies.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we were only there 1 to 2 weeks, but I have great memories of that also. And then my family, we would take vacations in the summer. My mom was a teacher, my dad was a pastor, and that was the time when we could go away. So we would go visit his parents, my dad's parents in New York, and that was a really cool experience for me, very different. I remember we would drive, it felt like forever, but I think it was only like a half an hour away. We would drive to this place called, I think, Samsonville or Salmonsville or something, and they had like the best ice cream, and they had the penny candy. So we would get penny candy. Those are some memories from there. And then we would drive out west and we would visit my mom's sister, so my aunt, and we'd go down to Florida because my mom's parents lived down there. So yeah, so my summers were spent traveling more so than staying home, but we also stayed home a lot too. I mean, I just remember running barefoot in the grass, playing with our neighbor friends. I mean, yeah, there's nothing like that freedom. Even if there's some structure there, that freedom of the long nights and the long days, and just loving it. Yep.
I know, and it would be so different even waking up, right?
Yes.
But by that I mean, because we lived in a city environment, so I'm used to like the sounds of the city. You know, it was just like noise and cars and people and sometimes sirens, mean fire,
Yeah.
ambulance, just it was like you would hear the sounds, of the city. But I remember just waking up at my grandparents' place, and especially when she would keep the windows open at night, and I wake up in the morning, and all you would hear are like just insects and birds. And
I love that sound, by the way.
yes, it's like it was odd because it always would take like some adjusting, I guess.
Oh yeah. Oh
Because
yeah.
it was like a completely different environment. And so you were just, it was almost like, wait, where's all the noise? Right.
Right. Right.
And it would be so quiet. The sun would be rising, just about dawn. And you wake up, and of course, you would leave the window open. So the air would be different. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like the air from the city, it was like a freshness to the air. And so, be in the bedroom and the air would be fresh and crisp, and all you hear like birds and, the insects and everything. And it was just like, oh wait, I'm at grandma's house, grandpa's house, and it's like a totally different type of ambiance and environment. And like you say, that freedom that's there.
Mm-hmm.
It was just one of my still to this day are some of my favorite memories from my childhood. And I may have been about, oh well, that started at an early age. So probably she shipped us out, you know, shoot, probably from when I was old enough to walk. So maybe 3 or 4 to like we were teenagers, preteen. No, not preteen, about 15 or 16. We just kind of went out there. Okay, probably about 14 and 15. We went out there, pretty regularly, and just to enjoy the time out there with our grandparents. But I noticed, today we're going to be talking about transitioning from a school year to summer fun. And I was quite young when, like I said, like I teased and it say, she shipped us off, but it was with my grandparents, so it wasn't like she had any worries.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
it wasn't like she had any worries. She would just like pack, and it's 5 of us, meaning me and my siblings. So altogether there was 5 of us. And she had no problem. My mom didn't. She just didn't have no problem just packing us up and saying toodles. It's like, see you guys whenever I see you again. So it wasn't like she had any worries or like, what are they doing? What's going on? Or anything like that. But I do know with some families and everything, it could be a little bit different, with your kids and the different ages. And I think especially those like 13 and younger. What do you think, Cheri?
Oh, I completely agree. And you know what? I think your mom gave you guys such a gift by doing that. As a mom, like, well, I've always been the type of personality that being a wife and a mother is like everything that I've always wanted to be. The career and the jobs that I have and the jobs that I hold, those are all blessings from God, and I have met so many incredible people that way. So I'm incredibly grateful that I have those in my life. But being a wife and mother has always been my sole passion, my sole purpose, the thing that I just enjoy the most. Like if I could have 12 kids, I would, in a heartbeat. And if that could be what I focus on day in and day out, I always tease and say that God gave me jobs in addition to my passion or my purpose or my love, because I would smother them to death. And I say that in the context of what we're going to talk about today, because I was always one of those mothers that could not wait for summer to start. Even though I worked from home, even though I had to manage work and balance work with my kids, I loved having them home. I loved the summertime. I loved Christmas break. I loved spring break. I was always one of those parents and still am to this day that I enjoy having my kids at home. So that's why I say your mom was so selfless, unselfish to ship you guys off for that period of time, because the gift that she gave you to spend and to develop that relationship with your grandparents, the same as my mom had that gift, it's priceless. And your mom was sacrificing her time with you to give you that gift. I am blessed because I don't have to ship my kids off. We live next door to my husband's parents. So our kids grew up with their grandparents all year long instead of just in the summer. They Bill and I, we would do projects out in the yard, and the kids would go back and forth when from the time they were knee high to a grasshopper, from as little as they could walk unsupervised, and we would watch them go across the field. They could go and visit their grandparents. My parents moved here when our middle child was 3 or 4, and they have been such a blessing too. They come here, we go there. They're not very far away. In fact, tomorrow we're going up and spending the morning with them just because we can. Last summer, our youngest, well, all of my kids, but my youngest especially, he asked already for this next summer if we can do it again, but we would spend Fridays with them every Friday. They live on a lake. I would go up, I'd take my laptop, I would write, because Fridays are fiction Fridays for me. And I would write. They have a pot of coffee waiting for me, and our kids would just be loved on by their grandparents. So yeah, there's just something about that connection and that relationship that is wonderful. So if you can do that for your kids, if you can give them that selfless gift, I have never once heard a child or a grandparent say, I've had too much togetherness with each other. Like, all I've ever heard is we've had the best memories. We've built the best memories. We have such a close relationship, et cetera, et cetera. So transitioning into there's like I said, I love having my kids home. And so we kind of make intentional memories. We kind of make intentional traditions in our family. So to give a broader context of how we prepare for summer, because there is a preparation, but it's a fun preparation. It's not like, something horrible or something to be dreaded. It's kind of how like some kids have bar mitzvahs, or they have that, like coming of age. We kind
Yes.
of do like a coming of the summer, coming of the school year, coming of January, the new year, those types of things in my family. So January, the beginning of summer break and the beginning of school, we like to dedicate our house to God. And we do this purposefully because in January, we're giving him the first of our year. We're giving him the whole entire year. We're offering it as a sacrifice to him. And we're saying, God, we want you in every single aspect of our life. We give him our summer because you have to admit, Kara, when the sun gets really hot, the days get really long, and there's only so much that you can do. People's tempers and temperaments can turn a little surly. So
Yes.
we pray peace over our house. We pray peace over our relationships. We pray blessings on anybody and everybody who is a guest who enters into our house. We just pray that blanket of peace, health, safety, grace, patience, fun, all of those things. We just pray that over our family. And then we do it again at the beginning of the school year. We'll pray for the classrooms, the teachers, the students, our kids. We'll just dedicate certain specific times in our life every year. And so I think that going into summer break with that attitude of, God, we're dedicating this to you. We're asking for your protection, your blessing, your favor, your peace to settle on our house. I think that just kind of adds to the excitement, adds to this is a great thing, it just adds to the whole um, June excitement of it's summer break. We get to have a different type of a schedule. We get to have a different type of a lifestyle, at least for 3 months. So that's one of the things that our family does. When our kids were younger, I was a little more structured only because you kind of have to be. Some of them still need naps. We would do library programs. We would and there was a thing where some of the kids could read, some of the kids needed to be read too. Well, we would let our older kids read to our younger kids because that would be double the bonus. So they would get the points for reading, and the younger kids would get the points for listening. Um, there are
That's a good
summer camps out
idea.
there.
That's a
Oh, it
really
was
good idea.
wonderful.
Yes.
It was wonderful. I When our kids were younger, I had a rule, and they hated me for it, but it was still a rule, and I would do it again. Um, from the time their dad left in the morning till the time that he got home at night, the TV did not come on.
Mm, mhm.
Um, there were exceptions. If they had friends over and the friends wanted to play a video game, or it was raining and they wanted to watch a movie, there were exceptions. But on average, the TV stayed off. I said, you didn't watch TV all day in school. You do not need to watch TV all day at home. When dad gets home, feel free. I have no problems. But during the day, you can find other things to do. And I'll tell you what, the creativity that they came up with
Oh,
was
yes.
astounding. I think it's a really good idea to let your kids be bored. I think it's a really good, I would put suggestions. In fact, I have this sheet that said I'm bored on it. And so I had IMBORED on the left side. And then I would write things in there. So like on the R, I put read to your little brother, read to your little sister, read to yourself. D, draw whatever you want to. We also had, at one point, we had a jar with sticks in it or pieces of paper. You could use popsicle sticks, you could use pieces of paper. If they got too bored and they were too complaining, I would have them draw something out of that. Sometimes it was something that they had to clean, sometimes it was something fun. They never knew, but it was one or the other. So, were they bored enough that they wanted to possibly have to clean? Were they bored enough that there might be something fun in there? Or were they able to come up with something on their own? Most of the time, they were able to come up with something on their own, an activity that they could enjoy. Um, so when they were younger, we had more structured, quote unquote, things like that, just because I think that they need a little bit of help figuring out what to do. We
Yeah.
also would have some downtime just to make sure that, people aren't getting too overly tired. We'd have bedtimes, but we're pretty lax about those. As long as they were not super crabby and it didn't change their personality, it didn't really bother me too much. As long as we didn't have anything that we had to do first thing in the morning, I didn't care if they slept in some. Um, so structure, but looser structure. I still had to work. So on the days that I worked, I needed things put in place that they could do on their own. It also taught my kids self-reliance. They learned how to make lunch at an early age. Our daughter would step up and would make lunch for her younger brother. Like that was huge. They learned a lot of responsibility that way. We would have chore charts. We don't pay our kids for chores. We will pay our kids if they do extra above and beyond. Like if especially now that our kids are older and some of them have jobs outside of the home, there just sometimes is not enough hours in the day. I know that it's that way for me with my jobs, and we give a lot of grace around here because I understand if it's hard for me and I work from home, it's even harder for them balancing college and high school and after school jobs and volunteering and helping with their grandparents and this, that, and the other. So we give a lot of grace. And if the other ones step up to help ease the burden, then they get rewarded for that because um, I just think it's fair. I just think that that's a good way to live. You reward people for going above and beyond, and you give grace where grace is needed. I'm trying to think of some of the other fun things we did. Oh, so like Mondays and Fridays, I've had different seasons with my jobs. And at one point when our kids were younger, I worked mainly Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I had more freedom Mondays and Fridays. So on those days, we would make sure that we would go and do something fun. We would go to the beach with other friends. We would go visit my parents. We would go to the zoo. We would go grocery shopping. They never thought that was fun. I always thought it was fun to have them go with me, but they didn't really like that. Although sometimes I would buy them lunch or we'd buy drinks on our way there, or, just making things fun so that it's not just drudgery all the time. Even like a simple trip to the grocery store, we would make a game out of it. We would all guess, okay, how long do we think it's going to take us in there? And whoever was closest to the guess, closest to the time would win. Or we would say funny accents. Like, okay, we would attempt an accent, like a British accent or a Spanish accent or a German accent, and we would talk that way all day long. Just different things like that. Sometimes I was trying to teach the skill of budgeting and menu planning and things like that. So I would have them, like I'd give them the list and they would have to do the grocery shopping, obviously with me supervising. I would teach them how to bag the groceries, different things like that, but making it fun. And that's kind of one of the fun things about summer is that you have a little bit more of a relaxed schedule. So you have a little bit more time to do things like that.
And you know what? I was just thinking as you were talking, and I'm going, oh my goodness, how many times did my boys say they were bored, growing up? And I'm going, and it would kind of baffle me a little bit because I I don't think I ever I have to check with my mom and my siblings about this, but I don't think I ever used that word as a child. I mean, even during the times that we weren't at my grandparents' house, fortunately, the neighborhood I lived in had children all of generally about the same age. We were about 3 years age range with each other. We were either the same age or they were 3 years younger or 3 years older. And so we would all kind of hang out together. But I remember we did everything from hopscotch to jump rope. We used to play a little game like on our porches called jacks when you used to have the little metal thingy
Yeah, yeah.
jigs that you would throw out, and you had a little ball that you would bounce up and you would play. And all them and
Yep.
with jacks, you had like so many different games you could play. You know,
Right.
we would do that a lot, sometimes in groups, sometimes individually if we wanted to, or we would play just like with, one or two of our friends. We had something back then called bolo bats, which was pretty much a ball on a wooden stick
Huh.
and with a long rubbery wire, I think it was.
Oh, I remember those. I never knew
Yes.
that was the name.
Well,
Huh.
here in the Midwest, we got them bolo bats, and you would just kind of sit there and you could hit it high, low, sideways, and everything else. And oh my goodness, yo-yos,
Yep.
yo-yos were a thing, right? So, and the more you could do with those yo-yos, the more popular you were, like in the neighborhood, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because of
We
course,
had Chinese jump rope. Did you have that?
yes, we did. We did do Chinese jump rope. Yes, we would do that, and sometimes we would even like play with string, and we would do like these funny little things, make these things out of string.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like Jacob's ladder, and all these different things. And like I said, it was just so when I hear my kids and they go, I am so bored when they were say that, I'm like, that's because you guys just get out. Like you said, sometimes it's good to be bored
Mm-hmm.
because you would go out and you could always find things to do. And all those toys, I actually think need to make a comeback if they haven't already. I know yo-yos did for a while, and things, because I think it's just the non-electronic non-digital things can be so much more fun. and i think
Oh,
al-
I agree.
and I think also when I was coming up, the game Uno had just
Mm-hmm.
came out, and that was a huge hit, like with the kids in our neighborhood. We would just sit there and play Uno till because it was the newest thing, you
Right.
know and so we would do that, and just all of those things that would happen. And then all those few chances where all my friends were busy or they were out vacationing with their parents and I was at home. You were talking about all you want to be was a wife and mother. I have to relate. And you know what I would do? This is a full confession, and I feel so embarrassed right now. Oh my goodness. I hope none of my family is listening because they may not know this. But I would go outside in the backyard, and because on the back porch is where my great grandmother who lived with us, she would put like her mop, a rag mop, and she would like put the broom out there, and just your regular old straw broom.
Mm-hmm.
Cheri, I would pretend like they were husband and wife.
That
That,
is so sweet.
that the mop was the wife, and I think her name was Daphne back then.
That's
And
a pretty name.
and then the broom was the groom, you know, and he was the husband. And I would sit out there on that back porch, and I would just like have my own little family, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I would be playing with them. And oh my goodness, I would braid again, it was your old fashioned rag mop. That's what I call it. I don't know what the official name of it is, but it was like with the white stringy,
Yep,
you
yep.
know, thing. I would braid her hair, quote unquote, and try to make her look pretty. And I'm thinking about that right now. And I'm going, if my daughter was to play with a dirty mop, I would like freak out, you know, 'cause I'm going, I can't believe that I did that or that I got away with it, and let alone a broom, and things. And so, and I was allowed to just go out there and just let my imagination run wild. And, to me, they were my, family and friends until my friends, came back around. So, anyway, full confession. But anyway, like you were saying, it's good to let kids get bored because there's
It
no
is.
telling what they can do or what they would come up with. And I had fun, with Daphne and her husband. I think, was his name Henry at the time? Probably. So, it could have been. So we don't know. But, and it wasn't like I didn't have dolls. My mom made sure I had plenty of dolls, but, it was just different.
Oh yeah,
It was just,
absolutely.
it was outdoor. It was different. They were more my height. I think they were a little bit more, they were taller than me at the time because I was maybe about 8 or 9. And back then, I think the mops and brooms were a lot longer or a little bit bigger, you know.
Yeah.
So it was, I don't know, it was just fun. I can't tell you how many times I actually did that. And I generally did it by myself. It wasn't, my sisters weren't with me, my brothers weren't with me. They were more athletic than I was. So they were all probably playing ball or riding a bike somewhere. And it just goes to show you, you can have fun by yourself and be creative by yourself.
Oh, absolutely. The only way that I survived cleaning the house every week when I was growing up was I would put a one of my baby dolls on my hip and I would pretend that I was
Oh,
married and
yeah.
that my husband was at work and my other kids were sleeping or whatever, because all my baby dolls were lined up. I had like, I mean, I could tell you the names of my kids. I
Oh,
could tell you
yes.
the ages of my kids. I had like I told you I wanted 12 a gazillion and think I had 6 baby dolls and I had a boy and I had girls and I had the whole 9 yards, and that was the only way I survived cleaning was because I was cleaning for my husband.
Isn't it amazing what we came up with?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
honestly, Kara, you and I both write fiction, and I think that God started our fiction journey way back when we were children.
oh, you know what? I never made that connection.
Yep,
So technically, I was creating fiction all the way back then because I had like all these imaginary families,
absolutely.
you know?
And look at how God has used that as a ministry now.
Isn't that amazing? And so, and it
Hmm.
just goes to show you to never crush your kids' imagination, no matter how crazy, it seems. Now, granted, I don't think my great grandmother had any issues with me um playing with a mop and broom, or whatever, after she got through mopping the kitchen floors and whatnot. Now, my mother probably would have stopped me. She probably would have been like, "What in the world are you doing? Get in here and take a bath." You know. So, but my great grandmother didn't stop me. She just let me, just have fun. And who
That's
knew
because
what
your
that would
great
lead
grand
to?
yeah, and your great grandmother learned just like we're learning as we get older that the small stuff that we sweat is really small stuff. Like that's I think why it goes back to what you were talking about at the very beginning, why that relationship with grandparents is so important. They've already raised the kids. They don't have the stress of making sure you're staying alive. They've already
Right?
figured out how to do that. They just get to enjoy you. They get to speak life into you. They get to give you life experiences. They get to slow down themselves. I mean, your mom with 5 kids, my mom only had 2. Your mom with 5, she had to have been so busy. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, I think, a part of that. The reward of parenting is that you then get to be the grandparent and get to enjoy it a little bit more. So that leads me to I am so excited. Next week, you have to come back because we are doing transitions part 2. We're going to talk more about the older kids, still younger kids too, because there's a lot of families like ours. Our kids, we have a 9-year age gap. And so we have younger kids and older kids. We're in different seasons in life at the same time. But next week we're going to talk more. We're going to focus a little bit more on the older kids and how to make summer fun for them, and how to, again, encourage their boredom, encourage their imagination, encourage responsibility, all of those types of things. But in addition to that, next week, I'm going to share with you my heart on how important it is as the mother or father who enjoys having your children around, how to enjoy that season a little bit more, the season of summer, by filling up with God first, and different ways that you can do that, encouraging you in different ways to do that, because unless you're filled up, it's very hard to fill up your children. It's very hard to speak life into them if you're drained and exhausted. And you don't want to start the beginning of a new school year exhausted. I did that way too many years in a row. Do not recommend it. Just like I don't really recommend going into the summer exhausted, although you have a little bit more freedom in the summer to relax a little bit more, hopefully. But so we're going to talk about all that next week. I could continue talking about it now, but then you wouldn't want to come back next week. So if you need prayer, if you want encouragement, if you have suggestions for us, because we still have, well, I still have kids at home. Kara does not, but she will have grandkids someday. So will I, hopefully, Lord
Yay!
willing. So if you have encouragement or suggestions or things that have worked in your family that you want to share with us, you can email us at cheeruppodcast@gmail.com. And we have another exciting way that we can connect with you and you can connect with other listeners. Join us on Facebook, Cheer Up Podcast on Facebook. Please join it. Click it, like it, follow it, and we'll get to spend even more time with you. We'll get to know you in a relaxed, comfortable setting. So excited to have you join us on that. If you want to learn more about Kara, go to her website, kararhunt.com. If you want to learn more about me, I have a few fiction books out already. Kara is working hard. Hers are going to come out soon. I have read them. They are amazing. You're going to love them. If you want me to come speak, I can do it over Zoom. I can do it. I have a few openings to do it in person. So if you want to hear me speak, if you want to check out my books, go over to my website, cheriswalwell.com. That's CherisWalwell.com. I also have devotionals, a Bible study, some compilation books. Head over there, check all that out. If you want to learn more how to have a relationship with God, feel free to email us. We would love to talk to you about it, or check out both of our websites. We have information on there as well. You have no idea how much we love having this time with you guys every week, how much we love hearing feedback from you, how much we love getting emails. Keep it coming. And again, please come back next week, because we're going to talk more about the summer fun, transitioning to summer from school, and just all those fun things that come along with summer. So sometimes summer isn't fun for everybody. Sometimes you don't have a job because your job is school schedule based. So you have lack of funds, or you have lack of time, or you have to figure out how to manage your two jobs with keeping your kids entertained and not having it break the bank with daycare. There are troubles in this world, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. But we just want to bring it back around, as always, that these things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. John 16:33. You know, God loves you. He knows the path that you're on right now. He knows the season that you're in. He knows that it's harder for some people than it is for others. I want to encourage you, even more than talking to us, which we love hearing from you, and please keep talking to us. But reach out to God and just ask him, just lay it all out there and say, God, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what I need your help with. And I guarantee you that he will meet you where you are, and that he has the answer that you need. He gives us wisdom when we ask for wisdom. He loves us with an unconditional love, and he wants more than anything to see you lead a blessed life. Blessed doesn't always mean easy, but blessed means resting in his peace, trusting him and having faith that he will work out all things for good to those who love him and are called according to his purpose. So again, cheer up. In this world, there are problems, but be of good cheer because he has overcome the world. We look forward to talking to you again next week. So have a great night, and we'll see you then.